G'day and hi there everyone, it is Mimo here and I'm back for a little bit of Battlefield 1 talk, and I'm talking about this issue that's plagued it since Battlefield 4, but definitely it's still there when it comes to Battlefield 1, and this is this little software issue when it comes to the sensitivity of triggers and things like that, which seems to affect only certain players, which I was not a part of up until recently. So I didn't know about this problem, and to be honest I didn't really care because it wasn't affecting me, but then it started to affect me. First, I couldn't shoot any of my snipers, not only in online mode but also in story mode, which is sort of a problem when you have those sniper missions and you got to run around with a knife and a pistol, when it's really easy if you could use your scout items. But anyway, so that just took out the scout class completely for me, so I was like, fair enough, I can't use the scout class, I'll just concentrate on my other three. But then the plague started to spread and the issues started to become greater, and it went into my assault class. I could no longer shoot my shotguns, and it started to affect me. I could only use SMGs, LMGs and some semi-automatic rifles from the medic class. So I was like, okay, it was sort of limiting my game and sort of cramping me up in my gaming style, being that I could only use certain guns. And the most disappointing fact of it all, which made me change my mind and actually work out what was going on, was I couldn't use the elite classes. So you talk about the Rex, your Villa Perosa and things like that. I couldn't use those guns, which are awesome guns. I want to use those guns. So I thought, you know what, enough is enough. I'm sick of this whole software glitch, flaw, trigger issue that's going on. I'm going to work out how to fix it. Now, it's a very simple fix when it comes to the elite controller. Now, $200 controller really proves its worth right here when it comes to this issue. And as you can see, mine's all customized out to my gaming style. I have the BF1 profile there, but I also use it for my Titanfall 2 and a lot of my other shooting games, being that they're sort of similar. Most shooting games are sort of similar with the controlling issues. Now, the elite controller is different from a normal controller. It allows you a lot more customization when it comes to your controller and I guess editing sensitivity and all those sorts of things, but it's very easy. When it comes to a normal controller, you got this, I guess, option of actually switching out your triggers, which means your gun will zoom in with the R1 and it will shoot with the L1, which fixes it for a lot of people, and it can actually work. For me, with my normal controller, it did not work, but you could always do that, switch out your triggers so that your zoom is on the opposite and your obviously your fire is on the other side. So you can do that and it can very much work. It can just be that simple of switching them out like that, and that could fix the issue for you. When it comes, that's normal control. Elite controller you could do that for, but you don't really need to do that for the elite controller, and the reason being is, like I said, with that customization options that you get with your elite controller, you actually can change manually right here in your trigger option, as we went down into the sensitivity of your triggers, which then overrides the flaw in the software when it comes to the Battlefield 1 games and their sensitivity issues and the sense issues and whatever else you want to talk about. A lot of people are saying that pretty much the only way to fix it is get a new controller, which is just not the truth. If you've got an elite controller, it's a lot easier to fix with just adjusting your sensitivity of your controller. So basically, when you push down on your triggers, you want that bar to come up all red and it will just be overly sensitive. So your gun's going to be firing like a rocket machine. Literally, it will just go off at the touch of anything, which means, unfortunately, if you accidentally touch your trigger slightly, you just start shooting random things and it's a complete accident. But as you can, you just move it up and down until you find that your bar's going in all red when you press down. I went up to 70. You can pretty much go lower than that. You can also go higher. It depends. Just make sure that bar is filled with all red, and that means your triggers are pretty much as sensitive as they're going to get. You can go more sensitive than that, but I didn't really need to. 70 was good enough, and it works. I can now shoot every class, every range. So like I said, the elite controller really proves its worth. Of, you know, $200 controller, it proves its worth, especially when it comes to the customization. You know, they sold it as the player's controller, which means you can sort of customize it to your gaming style, which, as you can see, I've got mine customized a lot. You know, the triggers I wouldn't have needed to customize if it wasn't for this issue, but that's how you fix the elite one. So the elite one's a pretty quick and easy fix. When it comes to the normal controllers, you've not got the options of the sensitivity. You can't actually edit the sensitivity, so you have to do a couple things. Like I said, you can either switch out your triggers. That will work for some people, switching out your triggers. So like I said, your fire will be on your left hand trigger rather than the right. The zoom will be on that. You can either do that in your options, your setting options with your controller, which means just be wary, maybe set a different profile because you don't want to be having it switched out for every game, or maybe you want to switch it out for every game. Though the trigger issue only seems to be with the Battlefield 1 franchise. I've never had a problem with any other game, and I had it on multiple controllers, both Elite and normal. So what I had to do with my normal controller was pretty much either switch out as you can see here, the soldier's buttons to a lefty configuration, which means it does the exact same as switching the triggers. It just puts the firing button on the left hand trigger and then the zoom button on the right hand trigger, which will fix the options for a lot of people. If unfortunately switching the triggers out does not work for you with the normal controller, then your last option is actually reconfiguring your controller and remapping the buttons, which you saw in the settings previously. You're going to have to put those your trigger buttons basically on your bumper buttons or something like that, which is going to change your gaming style, but that is the only way to fix it unless you buy a new controller. But as always, thanks for watching.